Spendapaloozers. That's the focus of tonight's angle. If it's a week before Christmas, it's time for Congress's annual spending farce, known as a continuing resolution.
It's supposed to be about keeping government operations open and providing disaster relief aid to hurricane victims, which I'm sympathetic to. But if you read the bill carefully, it contains pay raises for members of Congress, and I'm not making this up, an expansion of their federal health benefits. It contains all kinds of special interests and pork funding, including opening up a new stadium in Washington, D.C. It renews the Global Engagement Center, which is a key node of the censorship industrial complex.
And President Trump weighed in tonight on Truth Social, saying any Republican that would be so stupid as to do this and will be primaried. Everything should be done and fully negotiated prior to my taking office on January 20th. Now, I know why Congress hasn't gotten a raise in 15 years, right? They haven't gotten a raise. It's in this actual legislation. But do they deserve a raise? How many have made huge money trading stocks using their inside info? They've dug us into a $37 trillion hole. But at least Senator Schumer's happy.
There are many good things in this bill that Democrats worked hard for and achieved. Democrats have insisted these agreements must not have cuts, and this bill has no cuts.
Of course he's ecstatic. His staff probably wrote much of it, at least the liberal goodies inside, and all of those little IEDs in the text blowing up on us, such as the provision that makes it even easier for the government to conceal info about the rigged January 6th congressional investigation. That's nice. J.D. Vance knows this all too well. It's a shell game. And he lambasted the process, urging Republicans to pass a temporary funding bill without Democrat giveaways. He also spoke out about what President Trump wants in the bill.
What the president believes is we should support a clean CR so long as it contains a debt limit increase. That's the position of the president, and that's what we're going to try to push for.
Well, tonight we can report that it looks like the pressure may be working. The House adjourned late today, and word from Chad Pergram is that this CR is effectively DOA. Well, we'll see. This is great news if it is. Now is the time to set the table for 2025. That's what Trump and Vance are alluding to here. The voters want practical solutions to the problems bearing down on us. And nothing about this CR and the process by which it arrived on our doorsteps is practical. Will Democrats refuse to go with a clean bill? Will they force a partial government shutdown before Christmas, then hope the Republicans get the blame? Maybe. But who cares? Make them defend their game of smoke and mirrors. Right about now, sane people watching tonight are asking, what is the reason for this yearly last-minute spendapalooza? Well, I'll tell you why. Because there are about 300 members in the House who like it this way. A last-minute bill stuffed with a lot of pork, no real time to read it, and no need to defend it, where deals are cut to spend money we don't have or projects we don't need. That's perfect.
We're just fundamentally unserious about spending. And as long as you got a blank check, you can't shrink government. If you can't shrink government, you can't live free.
43 days ago, the American people gave us a mandate. Why in the world, days before we swear in on January 3rd, are we going to work with all the Democrats to pass all of this pork?
And you can't just blame Democrats, though. Yeah, they still control the Senate, and that's a problem. But plenty of Republicans have gotten used to this game as well. Despite all the conservative foot-stomping about the need to cut spending, there are usually only a few dozen members willing to blow the whistle on what's becoming institutionalized taxpayer theft.
Buried in this CR is a pay raise for lawmakers. Do you think that Congress deserves a raise?
Not the way it's acting.
Are you going to vote for the CR?
Nope.
It doesn't send the right message. Absolutely not. No, we should be cutting spending everywhere. That's really the truth. I mean, I was a no vote before I even got an airplane and even knew what coming into town and even knew what was in the bill.
I do not think we've done anything to deserve a pay raise. We're the only job in the world where we can just arbitrarily create more funding and just steal from our great-grandchildren.
Yeah, well, the ones voting for this should get some coal in their stocking at the very least. But now, maybe with Trump back, more will stand up, and they should. Think about the American families, what they do with their budgets every month. If you're responsible, you give yourself a certain percentage to spend on extras after you take care of essentials. If you care about your credit rating, you don't spend more than you make, especially when you've already got outstanding loans that you haven't paid off. If you want to rest easy, you're not just spending either, you're saving as well. But Congress doesn't follow those common sense rules. But this madness cannot continue. For the first time, the interest we pay on the debt is more than we spend on our national defense. Yeah, it's edging up to $1 trillion in interest payments. This is crazy town. Trump's team, once they're fully in charge, will be on a wartime footing. Yeah, I'm calling it wartime. Because they're battling to expose this twisted process and give us very specific areas that need to be cut. This time, Trump will have the added help in the bully pulpit with Vance and Musk and Vivek and others. The pressure on Congress to change their ways will be hard to resist. And Speaker Johnson, with an even slimmer majority this year, well, will absolutely need the Doge magic. Going into 2026, the GOP needs to keep broadening its coalition, but also please elect fiscal conservatives. As of now, too many have drunk the swamp water. That's a new drink. Maybe we should call that up at the bar. And that's The Angle.
Christmas is only a week away, and while you're out doing last-minute shopping, so's Congress. But here's the difference. You have a budget, Congress doesn't. And Congress just got caught trying to put $100 billion on our credit card. How long does $100 billion last? Probably all year, right? No, 2.5 months. And then they do it all again. Look at this. Look how many pages this is. It's 1,500 pages. They released it last night. We're supposed to read it and vote on it today. But no one read it, except us. They tried to write into law that no one's allowed to look at Congress's emails. So if I get a subpoena, you get a subpoena, we have to hand our emails over. But Congress, if they get a subpoena, they don't have to. So if Trump wants to investigate the January 6th committee to find out what happened, you can't see the politicians' emails. If Nancy's texting Paulie P. about investment opportunities, no one's allowed to see it. Congress just tried to write a law that puts them above the law. I thought no one was above the law. Didn't they say that all last year? Congress is also funding a censorship program. They're giving money to the State Department to censor things that they don't like online. We're funding Congress to take away our free speech. And remember, vax mandates. They're back. Congress is funding more vax mandates. You know, for the next pandemic. The section of the bill is called Pandemic Preparedness. Gain of function, you know, the risky experiments that flew out of Wuhan and killed 1 million of us. Congress is trying to fund gain of function research again. I'm sure not here in America. I'm sure we funded it to some other country like Ukraine or China, somewhere in Africa. Oh, and 12 new biolabs that won't leak, they swear. $3 million to test the inspection of molasses. Not to test the molasses, to inspect the inspectors. Have we been having trouble with bad molasses? Was there a molasses recall that I missed? Instead of inspecting the inspectors, why don't the first line of inspectors just do their job? $15 million to make recycling more accessible. It's not accessible now. Everywhere you look, there's a blue bin. When you throw something out, there's like 5 different little bins, and you're analyzing what goes in which one. Does this go in this bin? This recycling all goes to the same place anyway. Half the plastics in landfills. And $100 million goes to migrant farm workers. Why don't the farms pay the migrants? Not sure. Gavin's vineyard needs us to pay his migrants to pick his grapes. He's not making enough money from wine. He needs a subsidy. Why are we paying for Gavin Newsom to get paid? He can't get paid without our help. Must not be very good wine. But I'm willing to test it if he sends me some. And this is a 5-year, $100 billion contract. Once this thing passes, Doge can't touch it. Oh, and they're keeping Kamala's electric bus program. Kamala lost, but her earmark didn't. No one cares about electric buses, remember?
Haven't you always wanted an electric bus charging station?
Hell no. Why would I want that? What's that going to do? I barely catch the bus. Oh, no, that sucks.
How excited are you to go green?
What's to be excited for?
Are you excited for the electric bus charging station?
I don't really care.
Are you excited for the electric bus charging station? No?
The bill also bans sexy memes. Yeah, here's a sexy Jesse deepfake. I look good, but I don't look that good. I guess people have been putting AOC's face on bikini models in the group chat. Well, Congress says you can't make us look too hot, or you're going to prison. Memes are a crime. Oh, and the bill's also woke. It changes the term offender to justice-involved individual, and homeless to an individual experiencing homelessness. Who wrote this bill? The Republicans have the majority. I swear to God, the squad wrote this thing. Doesn't stop there. Remember Obamacare? You hate it, right? So does Congress. But now Congress gets to opt out of Obamacare. You're not allowed to opt out. Congress, the people who wrote Obamacare into law, they don't like it. So they're opting out of it because they think they're better than you and they deserve more. And they actually do think they deserve more. Congress is trying to give themselves a raise.
Members are giving themselves a pay raise. Do you guys deserve a pay raise?
Well, that's news to me. It's good news.
People look at the performance of Congress and say, why should we give them more money?
What about the media? Think about that for a second.
We're not paid by public money.
I know you're not, but I mean, half of your listeners are not there anymore. You're still getting the same paycheck? What's going on?
Congress is giving themselves a $6,000 raise to keep up with the cost of living. Now, why has the cost of living gone up? Because of Congress. Congress is trying to give themselves a raise to keep up with the cost of living that they caused because they spent so much. Elon Musk says the bill is criminal, and anyone who votes for it should be voted out of office. And he has the money to make that happen. Elon blew this bill up all day. He and Vivek were all over it, and it lit a fire under the politicians.
This is a sandwich. I don't know how else to say that. We're being forced into this position.
Swamp's going to swamp, right? We've said we'd do something different since we've been given the majority again. We're adding $330 billion in literally totally unpaid for additional deficit spending just since November 5th in 45 days. I don't see how that's doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're just fundamentally unserious about spending. And as long as you got a blank check, you can't shrink government. If you can't shrink government, you can't live free.
The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, says he had no choice.
Elon and Vivek and I are on a text chain together, and I was explaining to them the background of this. And Vivek and I talked last night about almost midnight. They understand the situation. They said, it's not directed to you, Mr. Speaker, but we don't like the spending. I said, guess what, fellas? I don't either. We got to get this done because here's the key. By doing this, we are clearing the decks, and we are setting up for Trump to come in roaring back with the America First agenda.
Clearing the decks? What does that mean? I don't know what clearing the decks means. They keep saying this is going to stop, and every year they say, this is the last time we're going to do this. And then every year they do it again. And now people aren't too happy with Mike.
Are you already not planning to vote for him?
This solidifies it.
Have any other of your colleagues said that they're not voting for Johnson? Any expressed?
I've talked to a few, who don't seem like they're going to vote for him. I'll vote for somebody else.
Does it have a strength to reform this institution that is broken? I am not sure, and I haven't seen that. I haven't seen structural reforms that he would do to change this institution. And this is not the way to govern. That's not what the American people elected us to do.
So what are we going to do now? We're going to toss Johnson overboard like they did with McCarthy? Then what? Everyone they make speaker spends money. Do we have to bring back Newt? Trump put out a statement. If Republicans try to pass a clean, continuing resolution without all the Democrat bells and whistles that will be so destructive to our country, all it will do after January 20th is bring the mess of the debt limit into the Trump administration, rather than allowing it to take place in the Biden administration. Any Republican that would be so stupid as to do this should and will be primaried. Everything should be done and fully negotiated prior to my taking office on January 20th, 2025. So guess what just happened? Republicans just scrapped the spending bill and are going to have to pull an all-nighter. They have until Friday at midnight to vote on a new bill, or the government shuts down for Christmas. Now, what does it mean when the government shuts down? I don't know. Everybody goes nuts, and then they rope off national parks so no one can hike. Congress has had all year to get this done, and they always wait until the last second. And they try to pull a fast one. They get caught. They whine about Christmas and promise they won't do it again, and it's the same thing every time. Trump won because Democrats caused inflation. And now Republicans, with the help of Democrats, are causing inflation before they go on vacation. Biden's doing the same thing. Biden's spending $73 million to build solar panels on Indian reservations. He calls it a loan. Do you think the Indians are going to pay the big guy back? They're on a reservation. They don't have $73 million. Biden's also spending $160 million to monitor methane emissions, to monitor cow flatulence. How do you monitor that? I don't want to know. But it costs $160 million. Even the Inspector General says this is fraud, waste, and abuse. Biden doesn't care. He's looking to hire 1,200 new DEI bureaucrats before Trump takes over. Yeah, DEI jobs. The SEC, who couldn't catch Madoff, Mini Madoff, or Nancy, they're looking for a, quote, supplier diversity officer. The salary, $250,000 a year. Health and Human Services is looking for a, quote, scientific diversity advisor, $180,000 a year. The Air Force needs an equal deployment specialist, 150 G's a year. Wait until Pete Hegseth hears about that one. And you can't fire them. They're negotiating golden parachutes into their contracts. So if Trump comes in and says you're fired, it's going to cost $160 million in severance packages. This government, these politicians have no respect for you and your money. They're stealing your money. And if you try to subpoena their emails, get lost. And if you post a meme about them, you go to jail. Can't ridicule politicians. You're only allowed to bribe them. Most of these people aren't even elected. Only 6% of the bureaucrats go into the office 5 days a week. And Biden just locked in a contract where thousands of them get to work from home for the next 5 years, until the next pandemic, which we're preparing for by funding gain of function. Trump is already on the warpath.
If people don't come back to work, come back into the office, they're going to be dismissed. And somebody in the Biden administration gave a 5-year waiver of that, so that for 5 years, people don't have to come back into the office. It involved 49,000 people. For 5 years, they don't have to go. They just signed this thing. It's ridiculous. So it was like a gift to a union, and we're going to obviously be in court to stop it.
Washington's packed with lazy spendaholics who need an intervention and probably an ass whooping. And my mom does not like it when I use that language, and I'm sorry. I don't like to use it either. I'm just not happy about this, and I was in a great mood when I woke up this morning.
And welcome to Hannity, and buckle up, because tonight it appears that Donald Trump will be faced with yet another Biden-era disaster when he takes office in January. This one might involve a government shutdown. Now, that continuing resolution now in Congress, it is a total, unmitigated disaster. It's hard to fathom after this election that these elected officials, they think that government as usual, the swamp as usual, is going to continue. It's not. This would fund the government through March. But at what cost? Raise the debt ceiling. At what cost? Why should Donald Trump have to raise the debt ceiling when it's Joe Biden's problem? Now, this bill is over 1,500 pages. It spends so lavishly on pet projects. Let's see, a new bridge in Baltimore, along with an additional $100 billion for vague disaster relief programs, another $10 billion in farm subsidies. The resolution also expands the federal bureaucracy, funding a new Office of Telecommunications Spectrum Management and a new National Blockchain Deployment Advisory Committee. The spending bill also gives the state of Maryland a group of National Guard fighter jets. It also transfers ownership of RFK Stadium from the federal government to Washington, D.C. Why are we giving them our stadium? In other words, you paid for it, a hugely valuable asset owned by the American taxpayers, given to a far-left residents of the D.C. swamp? Now, for some reason, this bill also makes clothing, textile imports from Haiti duty-free, but bans lithium batteries from other countries. Explain that one. The cherry on top of all this continuing resolution is a pay increase for members of Congress. That's right. I think they worked a whopping 138 days, if my count is correct. A pay increase that actually few deserve. And for more than a decade, lawmakers have worked an average of about 140 days per year. That's all they work. It's a part-time job. And sadly, as a whole, their work has been unacceptable. Our budget is out of control. The bureaucratic state is a nightmare. The executive branch is rarely held in check. As I've been saying, it is time to get back to constitutional order. What did our framers, what did our founders, what did they envision for our country? Principles like limited government, greater freedom, not a cradle-to-grave, womb-to-the-tomb society, and not this backslapping, I'll support your pet project, you support my pet project, we'll all get reelected. But Democratic Senator Dick Durbin, he seems to be very happy. He thinks he deserves every penny. He wants his raise. Watch this exchange between Dick Durbin and fake news CNN reporter. Take a look.
Members are giving themselves a pay raise. Do you guys deserve a pay raise?
Well, that's news to me. It's good news. You know, what has it been, 10 years or 14 years and no COLA, no change at all? I think it's about time something's done.
You support giving yourselves a pay raise?
How would I not know about a pay raise?
But I mean, people look at the performance of Congress and say, why should we give them more money?
What about the media? Think about that for a second.
And we're not paid by public money.
I know you're not, but I mean, half of your listeners are not there anymore. Are you still getting the same paycheck? What's going on?
How about you balance the budget first, then we can talk about a pay raise? Wait a minute. How about you pass a budget first, because they don't even pass budgets anymore? Again, you can't make up such incompetence. This is the old order, the old way of doing things. This is what's got to change. Might as well have that fight now and get it over with. Tonight, the congressional pay raise isn't even the most controversial part of the bill. Through all of the legalistic language, Section 605, it is now being interpreted as a broad protection for members of Congress and anyone who helped Democrats smear Donald Trump. You know, people like Liz Cheney, Benny Thompson, during their various witch hunts. That section purportedly blocks subpoenas for House data and applies the provision retroactively. In other words, any investigation into witness tampering, Liz Cheney was just referred for an investigation to the FBI, during Trump's prior impeachment trials, or the January 6th sham committee with a predetermined outcome, they could all be stonewalled. Why is this part of a continuing resolution that supposedly funds the government? Our friend Vivek Ramaswamy points out, quote, the bill could have easily been under 20 pages. It's over 1,500. Instead, there are dozens of unrelated policy items crammed into the 1,547 pages of this bill. There's no legitimate reason for them to be voted on as a package deal by a lame duck Congress. 72 pages worth of pandemic preparedness and response policy, renewal of the much criticized Global Engagement Center, a key player in the federal censorship state. That's a big provision. 17 different pieces of commerce legislation paving the way for a new football stadium that you'll pay for, that D.C. will own in Washington, a pay raise for congressmen and senators and making them eligible for federal employee health benefits. It is beyond indefensible. By the way, they all deserve Obamacare and the Obamacare exchange that they forced down our throats. It is indefensible to ram these measures through at the last second without even time for anyone to read the bill and without any real debate. And now President-elect Donald Trump, his incoming administration, they are strongly urging lawmakers to vote no on this out-of-control so-called spending bill. Trump was elected in November. He was given a mandate to fix what is broken. And this bill will make that job much harder. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.